Why reducing the size of the workforce might be necessary. So, workforce, you're talking about the staff, your employees. So it's basically we're talking about planning for the workforce. So let's really say workforce planning is where a business decides on the type and number of employees needed in the future. The number required will depend upon the business sales forecast, its future plans such as expansion or automation, and its objectives. For example, introducing new types of products. Often businesses require additional employees when they are expanding, but sometimes they will need to downsize the workforce, reduce the number of employees. This can be because one. So when the business is planning, when there's a workforce planning, this will be done based on the future references. So, what happened, what are they predicting to happen, or what are they planning towards in the future? Are they thinking about expanding their business? Are they thinking about changing their production method or changing their production operation? Or are they thinking about automation? Maybe they want to start using more of technology. So all these things means they need workforce planning. So what are the reasons? So what are the reasons why a firm might reduce the numbers of employees? One, introduction of automation. For automation, here we're talking about basically we're talking about technology. So machines. So machines, if machines are coming into the organization, it means it will reduce the number of workers. So the numbers of workers might be reduced as a result of automation. That was the point there. Falling demand for their goods or services. Revenue is falling. If revenue is falling, firms are not selling as they used to sell. So there's no point keeping workers. Workers might be laid off. Factory shop office closure. Their offices are closing down. If offices are closing down, those workers there will be laid off too.
Yes.
Maybe the ones that are effective or efficient or productive might be transferred to other branches. But as soon as the office is closed, a lot of workers within that office will be left without a job.
Yes.
Relocating their factory abroad. So if a business is moving from one country to another, they won't be taking the workers from this country if there's a company in Libya and it's moving abroad, it won't be taking all the workers here to abroad. Probably might take the executives, but employees, the junior staffs, no, they won't be taking them.
So they're moving, not like expanding.
They are moving, they are moving their operations abroad.
Oh, okay.
So workers will not be going with them.
Yes.
A business has merged or been taken over and some jobs have become surplus to requirements in the newly combined business. During integration, maybe merger or acquisition, businesses might, if there's merger or acquisition, it means some people will be made redundant because if they are not made redundant, there will be duplication of duties, there will be duplication of jobs.
Yes.
So if firm A and firm B are coming together, the account department of firm A, the finance department of firm A, and the finance department of firm B will join together. They won't be having two financial managers.
Yeah, one.
They will only have one. They won't be having two clerks. They might need only one clerk. So whatever will make you to have less work to do, that means your services is no longer needed. You have to go. So you'll be made surplus to requirement. So during integration, workers are also made redundant because they are surplus to requirement. So when it has been decided how many employees will be required and what their skills need to be, the HRD can plan how this will be achieved by one. So as soon as the firm have decided on what they want to do in terms of workforce planning, then they have to make it known to the human resources department. So the human resources department is in charge of recruiting, selecting, and training employees. So it is the duty of the human resources department to find the right talent for the organization. So finding out the skills of all the present employees. So human resources department can plan how this will be achieved by finding out the skills of all the present employees. So the existing employees, you need to know their skills. So if you need someone out there, if you think about external recruitment, you have to employ someone that does not have the same skills as your existing employees.
Yes.
That's the point they are making there. So the human resources department will check the kind of skills are available within the organization before they start thinking about those ones that are not available that they need to recruit for.
Yeah.
Not include anyone who will be leaving soon, for example, due to retirement. The human resources department would not focus on those that are going to retire very soon because they are retiring soon, they are even not part of the future plan of the company. So they won't be considered as existing employees. Consulting with existing staff as to who could and would want to retrain to fill the new jobs. So training, because training improves your skills.
Yes.
So the human resources department would contact different employees on who is interested in that job or needs training. Do you get it?
Yes.
Preparing a recruitment plan to show how many new staff will be needed and how they should be recruited. Is it internal or external? External. So they need to make a plan. As soon as they arrive at their studies, as soon as they concluded on the number of workers they need, then they have to think about how to get them. Is it internally or externally? So if a business needs to reduce the number of employees, this can be done in one way or two ways. One of two ways, either dismissal or redundancy. So workers may also leave their job because they are retiring because of age and they want to stop working. Resign because they have found another job. Workers can also resign because maybe they have another job.
Dismissal.
Now we'll go to dismissal. So go to dismissal. This is where a worker is told to leave their job because their work or behavior is unsatisfactory. For example, an employee who was constantly late for work and who, despite being given warnings, continued to be late will probably be dismissed. An employee who was caught stealing or who was unable to do the job to a satisfactory standard would be dismissed. In some countries, an employee can take the business to court if they feel they were unfairly dismissed. Therefore, a business needs to make sure it has followed all the laws in its country before dismissing a worker. So dismissal means you have been kicked out. Your service is no longer needed. Maybe because you are not doing well in terms of what is being expected of you, or there was theft, or maybe there's wrongdoings from your side, which you have been warned about against and you never changed. So one could be dismissed because of that. But if you think as a worker you have been dismissed unfairly, you can take the company to court. And if you belong to a trade union member, if you are a trade union member, it becomes easier for you because the trade union will take your place to speak on your behalf.
Yes.
Redundancy. There may be occasions when the number of employees will no longer be needed through no fault of their own. For example, during a period of falling sales resulting from an economic recession, when an employee is made redundant, they may be given some money to compensate them for losing their job. In some countries, this is laid down in law. For example, 1 week's wages for every year that the employee has worked for the business. So redundancy means you are surplus to requirement. Not that your job or your work is not satisfactory, not that you have stolen from the company, but situations surrounding it cannot allow them to continue to pay you. So you have to be made redundant. That's the point there.
Yes.
Well, as soon as you are made redundant, you'll be paid a redundancy fee, a compensation for letting you to leave the job when you are not supposed to leave.
Yes. Would the government do anything like salary or something? No?
The government?
If they give like a monthly.
No. If you are made redundant, it's not government's problem. It doesn't concern government.
I don't know.
Maybe government organizations. Oh, most of the time, redundancy doesn't come to government jobs. When you are a civil servant, you can't be made redundant, you'll be retired. It's a government job. It's not, we're talking about private sector here.
Yes.
It's a private sector. So it's a private sector. I think it's clear.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's about redundancy. Like I said, redundancy means you are surplus to requirements. But as soon as you are being made redundant, you'll be paid compensation for letting you to leave the job when you are not supposed to leave. So how do businesses come about the workers that they have to make redundant? Because you must not make a mistake by making an effective or efficient worker to be redundant, because you are making them redundant because they cannot add value anymore. Yes. That's why you're making them redundant. So you have to be sure when it comes to redundancy. So that takes us to which workers to make redundant. There are factors that said the following factors help a business to decide which worker to be made redundant and which to retain. One, some workers may volunteer and be happy to be made redundant because they may have another job they can go to. They want to retire early or they want to start their own business. So the first thing you have to, as soon as there's going to be a redundancy process, the first thing the company will do is announce it to ask who really wants to be made redundant, who is interested, who has interest to be made redundant.
Yes.
That's the first thing. So the company will propose to you, and that it is open for anyone, so as they won't make those that still want to work stop working. And maybe some people wants to even voluntarily leave the job because they want to concentrate on their own business. So the company would ask who wants to be made redundant, who is interested in being redundant. So if there are, then those are the first names you have to put into consideration because they no longer want to work.
Yes.
So they are not interested anymore. So you have to put them in the first list. That's the first factor. The second one is the length of time employed by the business. Workers who have worked for the business for a long time are often retained. They will have the most experience and be the most expensive to make redundant if redundancy payments are made. The redundancy payment is based on the number of years you have worked. If you have worked for a longer, if you've worked for a lengthy period of time, your redundancy fee payment will be high. So workers that have spent so many years in the organization might not be made redundant because they have to be paid so much money. So those ones that just come in might be made redundant.
Yes.
Together, that's another factor you have to put into consideration. The years they have spent in your organization.
Yeah.
The third one, workers with essential skills that are needed by the business or whose skills could be transferable to other departments are often retained. You have to check workers that have special skills that no matter what happens, you will still need them, or those that are multi-skilled that you can still take to other departments that will be useful in other departments. You don't make them redundant. You retain workers like that because they are difficult to find. Employment history of the worker, whether they have a good or poor attendance, punctuality, or appraisal record. So you have to now check their track records. What is their track record? Do they have good appraisal from their subordinate or from their managers or not?
Yes.
What's their record? So if their record speaks well, then you should not make them redundant unless if they want to voluntarily be redundant.
Yes.
Which department of the business needs to lose workers and which needs to retain workers? Then you have to put into consideration each department. How many workers do they need in each department? Which department needs to lose workers? Which department needs to retain its workers? That you have to also put into consideration. Yeah. So that's about redundancy. I think it's clear.
Yes.
We'll go to legal controls over employment issues. So in many countries, government have passed laws that affect the relationship between employers and employees. The most important employment issues affected by legal controls are the employment contract, unfair dismissal, discrimination, health and safety, legal minimum wage. So there's always going to be a relationship between the employer and the employee. So the relationship, what binds employers and employees together is the employment contracts.
Yes.
Because there's offer and there's acceptance. There's offer from the employer, there's acceptance from the employee. So
Yes.
both of you have agreed to start doing business together. So that's about employment contract. So let's see it each one at a time. So the contract of employment. In many countries in the world, it is a legal requirement for employers to provide a new employee with a contract of employment to sign. It will set out the terms of the relationship between the employee and the employer. It will usually be set out in writing and include one, name of the employer and the name of the employee. So we have a contract, an employment contract. That means I have accepted the job and you have also agreed to give me the job. And all terms and conditions regarding that employment has been accepted by both parties. So what are those items you will find in an employment contract? One, the name of the employer and the employee. Job title, the position you are holding. Date when employment is to begin, the day you have to resume to work, hours to be worked, the numbers of hours, the days as soon as you resume, they might tell you it's from 8 o'clock to 2 o'clock. So that's your hours of work. Rate of pay and any other benefits such as bonus, sick pay, pension. So your financial benefit will also be stated in your contract of employment. The time at which you get your pay at the end of each month will be stated. Your holiday entitlement, if there's any, you will get it. Amount of notice that the employer or the employee must give to end the employment. So you have to give leeway notice, like, oh, you think about leaving the job maybe next month. You have to tell them beforehand. So that means maybe 1 month before you leave. If you are leaving in February, you have to inform them in January. In December, you have to inform them in December because you want to leave in February. So it depends on the terms and conditions of the contract, though.
Yeah.
So then we go to impact of employment contracts on employers and employees. So why is it important to have an employment contract or contract of employment? One, both employers and employees know what is expected of them. So because we have already there's an offer from the employer and there's an acceptance from the employee. It means we both have agreed on the terms and conditions. So what is being expected of me, I have known it. What is being expected of you, you know it already. So our duties, our responsibilities, we know we have to get them done. So that's one of the reasons why it is important to have an employment contract.
Yes.
Because whenever there's a fault, the first thing they ask you is, didn't you see it in your contract or your employment contract?
But we didn't agree.
Okay. So it provides some security of employment to the employee. Because when I first started job, the first thing I always want to figure out is my contract. My contract, where's my contract? Because my contract is a form of security for me that, oh, I am with this organization from this period to that period. But these days I might not think about it, but then I always think about it because it is important. That shows that makes me to be secured.
Yes.
Without a contract, I might be kicked out any moment from now. But if I have an employment contract, my mind is at peace. I know I'm working with that organization for that specific period of time.
Yes.
3, if the employee does not meet the conditions of the contract, then legal dismissal is allowed. So based on the terms and conditions of the contract, if you are faulty, it will be stated based on the contract terms, then you can be dismissed. But if whatever case it might be, that you are being dismissed without any item in the employment contract, it is unfair dismissal. So you might take the company to court. If the employer fails to meet the conditions of the contract, for example, does not offer the holidays the worker is entitled to, then the employee can seek legal binding compensation. So because it is your due, we both have offer and acceptance, and all the items have both been agreed by both parties. There's no information failure here. There's no information gap. Yeah. So if your employer are not doing what they are supposed to do according to the contract, then you can take a legal action against them.
Yeah.
That's why it's important to have a contract. Then we'll go to unfair dismissal. This occurs when an employer ends a worker's contract of employment for a reason that is not covered by that contract. So it is unfairly dismissed. That means you unfairly dismiss an employee without any wrongdoing according to the contract. So if you have to dismiss an employee, it should be on the ground that that employee has forfeited or is guilty of one of the rules and regulations or the policies of the company. If not, then you should not just dismiss an employee for personal reason. No. So this may be for reasons of discrimination. So, or it might be that the employer wants to reduce worker numbers, but does not want to pay redundancy compensation. Unfair dismissal is illegal in many countries, and the worker has the right either to compensation or to be offered their previous job back by taking the case to an industrial tribunal. So an industrial tribunal is a type of law court that makes judgment on disagreement between companies and employees. So for unfair dismissal, if it is unfair, you can take legal action. If you are a part of the trade union, then it becomes easier. And if not, you can take them to the industrial court. For the industrial court, this is where they make judgment on cases between employers and employees.
Yeah.
That's unfair dismissal. Then we have impact of unfair dismissal on employer and employees. So if there's unfair dismissal, what is the consequence on employers and employees? One, Employer must keep very accurate records of the worker's performance if they want to claim that the employee has broken their contract of employment before dismissing them. So you need, as an employer, you have to keep track of your employees. So if you are dismissing them, it has to be on the ground that they have made mistakes or based on what it's been agreed upon.
Yes.
So employees have security of employment as long as they fulfill their contract and are not made redundant. So as employees, in as much as you have your contract of employment and you have not, there's no any wrongdoing from your own side,
Yes.
then you are good to go. You can take legal action on them.
Yes.
3, allows employees to take their employer to an industrial tribunal if they feel they have been treated unfairly and they may get compensation if this is found to be true. So it gives them opportunity, it gives them that confidence to take the employers to wherever they want to take them to, especially to industrial court. Makes the business less likely to treat employees unfairly, as they know they may be taken to an industrial tribunal and may have to pay compensation or give the employee their job back. So with this type of, with contracts being available and with impacts on dismissal, unfair dismissal, employers are reluctant. They are careful whenever when it comes to dismissing employees, because they know if they do, it will boomerang. It will come back to them. So they don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Protection against discrimination. So what is discrimination? Discrimination means you acting in a way that you are segregating some people and you're not doing it equally with others. You segregate some because of a reason, like maybe because they are male, because they are female, maybe because they don't come from your region, or because they don't come from your. These are discrimination. So you are not treating people equally. That is discrimination. So discrimination at work is when the employer makes decisions that are based on fair reasons. The main examples are when workers are treated differently because they are of different race or color, belong to a different religion, are of the opposite sex, are considered too old, young for the job, that's age discrimination, are disabled in some way. So if employees are treated this way, are treated because of these reasons, that is discrimination. So in most countries, many of these forms of discrimination are illegal. And if they were not illegal, many sections of society would find it very difficult to gain jobs or to achieve promotion at work. Businesses can also lose out by practicing unfair discrimination. They could fail to select a very good worker just because they used one of the reasons above not to select the person. In addition to these laws, many employers have an equal opportunities policy. Employees who consider that they have been unfairly discriminated against can appeal to an equal opportunities committee. So there's always a committee set up in the organization to check about equal opportunity. Like I told you, if workers are not treated equally, that means there's discrimination. You have to treat each worker the same.
Yes.
So that's then impact of discrimination on employers and employees. For employees should be treated equally in the workplace, and when being recruited, and they should be paid equal amounts for similar work. So you don't pay employee A different from employee B if they are doing the same job. No, you pay them the same. If a man and a woman are both equally well qualified for a job, they should be treated equally. It should not be the case that one rather than the other is given the job simply because of their gender.
Yes.
Do you get it? So if in as much as the man or the woman is fit for the job, is suitable for the job, give it to any of them. Don't give it because it's a man or it's a woman.
Yes.
Employees who have a disability are from different races, or so you should not discriminate. You should not stop giving job to people because of their disability. In as much as they have the mental health to do the job, give it to them. Employers have to be careful when wording an advertisement for a job. For example, they cannot advertise for a woman. They must say person. Don't say woman is needed there. A person is wanted. Okay. When selecting an employee for a job, an employer must treat all applicants equally. If a business does not do this, then it could be prosecuted and fined. You must treat everyone equally. That's the point. By following these laws carefully, businesses should recruit and promote staff on merit alone, and this should help to increase motivation at work. So employ workers, promote them based on merit. That's the ground.
Mm-hmm.
What is the impact of health and safety on employers and employees? For health and safety, it's a cost of employer of meeting the health and safety regulations, for example, better firefighting equipment. So here we're talking about.
What?
Really?
Yeah.
I'm just sorry about that.
Change the.
Oh, health and safety at work. Is that no? Yeah, that's from there, right? Health and safety at work. They said many years ago, most employers cared little for the safety of their workers. Machines did not have safety cages. Protective clothing was not issued. Conditions were often very hot or cold, noisy and unpleasant. The argument often used by employers to explain such conditions were that it would cost too much to make workplaces safe. If the existing worker did not like the conditions, then they could leave, as there were many unemployed people who would do their job, who would do their work. In our modern world, such attitudes are no longer acceptable. Most employers now care for their workers' safety. One reason for this is that many laws have been passed that have forced them to improve health and safety at work. In most countries, there are now laws which make sure that all employers are one. So before we go into the modern day society, before now, when there's a rapid unemployment, like unemployment is rampant.
Yeah.
So if you are not conducive with the environment, you just leave. But before you even leave, someone else is coming to take your place. But these days, laws have been passed. So firms are forced
Yes.
to make health and safety paramount in the running of their organization. So they don't have any other choice than to focus on health and safety. So what are those things that they need to do? One, protect workers from dangerous machinery. They have to protect their workers from dangerous machinery, provide safety equipment and clothing, maintain reasonable workplace temperatures. You have to workplace temperature. You have to know the right temperature they need to have. They have to use, or they need to be the condition they have to be at each spot. Provide hygienic conditions and washing facilities. Hygiene.
Yeah.
Do not insist on excessively long shifts and provide breaks in the work timetable. You must give them break and don't force them to have a long shift. If they don't feel like having a part-time, if they don't feel like doing extra, we allow them, in as much as they fulfill what is in the contract.
Yes.
So what are the impacts of health and safety on employers and employees? Yeah, one of the reasons why employers do not want to take care of health and safety is that they believe it is expensive. It costs them a lot. So it's cost because you have to buy equipment, health and safety equipment, and they are expensive, like the fire fighting equipment. Time needs to be found to train workers in health and safety precautions. So you need to create time out of the working time, the business hours, to train them on health and safety.
Yes.
Workers feel safer and more motivated at work. So for workers, if employers have given them more time, if employers have trained them or have provided them with health and safety equipment, workers will be more safe and they'll be motivated. They won't be scared to work.
Better working condition.
Yeah. Reduces accident rate and the cost of compensation for workers injured at work. So because now you take care of health and their health and their safety. So you won't need to be compensating them if they got injured because you have protected them against injury. That is what health and safety, you have protected them against injury. So they won't get injured. Then you don't have to continue to pay compensation for injured workers.
Yeah.
Are health and safety laws and controls over business a good idea? Most managers think so. Workers cost a great deal to recruit and train. It is worthwhile keeping them safe and healthy. Such workers are likely to be better motivated, work more efficiently, and stay with the business for a longer period of time. So managers want health and safety to be taken care of because it motivates workers. It gives workers motivation, and firms will not need to be employing workers every now and then. It reduces workers' turnover. So for these reasons, some employers in countries where there are weak health and safety laws will still provide working conditions of a very high safety standard. The managers of these firms have taken an ethical decision. Do these managers make them better employers? Most workers would think so and will be better motivated to work hard and stay with the business because of this. As a manager, because you are in charge of the day-to-day running of the business, it is important. It is your duty to ensure that your workers are provided with health and safety equipment. Their health are taken care of. If not, they won't be doing the job well, and it will also affect your own output and your performance. Unfortunately, in some countries, there are employers that still take advantage of workers. There may be no protection on the length of the shift, and many millions of children can still be found working in industries that offer little protection from danger and ill health. In these countries, workers are exploited and often paid low wages. Business costs are therefore very low. Should the rest of the world continue to buy products from these countries? What is your view? These countries are unethical. These countries, they use child labor. They don't care about health and safety. So it is better for businesses to stop buying from such country.
Yeah.
So we go to legal minimum wage. Workers are, for legal minimum wage, you're talking about the lowest you could pay to the lowest rank officer in your country. Workers have a right to be paid for work they do for employers. There should be a written agreement between worker and employer. That's the contract of employment, which will contain details not only of the hours of work and the nature of the job, but also of the wage rate to be paid. That means each day, what's the amount attached to each day pay? How frequently wages will be paid? How are they going to be getting it? Is it weekly, monthly, or every fortnight? What deductions will be made from wages, for example, income tax? You have to let them know the deduction you make. Maybe there's pension scheme, there's income tax. Whatever deduction that has to be made, it has to be known to them. You don't do it without their consent.
Yes.
In some countries, employers can pay whatever wage rate they like. If there is high unemployment or even unemployment benefits are low, workers may be offered very low wages. Increasingly, governments are taking action against employers that pay low wages. These actions often takes the form of a legal minimum wage. The minimum wage exists in parts of China and India and the USA. Minimum wage makes it illegal for an employer to pay an hourly rate below the minimum wage set. So countries that there is high unemployment rate, they tend to pay lower wages there because whatever they pay, you want to get it. If you don't get it, other people will get it. So countries like that exploit workers, but government is intervening. Government is coming in to set legal minimum wage. So it becomes illegal for you as a firm to pay the lowest rank officer below the minimum wage rate.
Yes.
So these are all about employment. And do you have any other question? Okay, we have the impact now. So what are the impacts of legal minimum wage on employers and employees? For employers, it should prevent strong employers from exploiting unskilled workers who could not easily find other work. So for big companies, you won't be able to exploit workers that are vulnerable. Workers won't become vulnerable to you because you won't be able to do that. If you do it, it becomes illegal. They might close your company. As many unskilled workers will now be receiving higher wages, it might encourage employers to train them to make sure that they are more productive. Not that you have to pay them minimum wage, skilled or unskilled. It becomes paramount for you to train them so that they can be more useful than you just paying them for nothing. 3, it will encourage more people to seek work. There should be fewer shortages of workers. It increases the demand for workers. It increases the supply of workers, sorry.
Yes.
Low-paid workers will earn more and will have higher living standards, meaning they will be able to afford to buy more. So with legal minimum wage, low-paid workers that are getting below the minimum wage will now get the minimum wage. That means their life things can become affordable for them. Their living standard will improve. It increases business costs, which will force them to increase prices. The problem is that this is a negative impact here. Now that employees are getting more, they have to pay more too, because firms will increase the prices of their food, of their goods.
Yes.
So when you are receiving more pay, there you have to buy, it's cyclical. So you have to pay more to get goods or services.
Yes.
Some employers will not be able to afford these wage rates. They may make workers redundant instead, unemployment rates. So some companies might not be able to pay the minimum wage. As a result, they might make workers to become redundant, especially new workers, and unemployment will increase in the economy. So this becomes government failure if legal minimum wage is being imposed and unemployment is increasing. So government action, government trying to correct if a market failure has led to another market failure. So that is government failure.
Yeah.
You get it?
Yes.
So that's economics though.
Yeah.
Other workers receiving just above the minimum wage level may ask for higher wages to keep the same differential between themselves and lower paid workers. Business costs will again increase. Those workers that are getting almost the same. You know, when minimum wage is being when there's legal minimum wage,
Yeah.
it means the salary of workers will increase
Yes.
to a certain extent. So if those that are not below, those that are not below the minimum wage rate, those that are above the minimum wage rate,
Yes.
before the minimum wage rate, it does not affect them. It only affects those that are getting lower. As a result, those that are getting above the minimum wage rate might also ask for increase. They will ask for increase because you have increased with the minimum wage rate, you have increased lower ranked officers' pay. You have to increase our pay too.
Yes.
Do you get it? So that might increase the cost of firms. Do you get it? So they want it to be fair. You have to increase our pay too. Or you want us to be getting the same pay.
Yes.
So now the security is getting this amount and I'm getting the same amount or close to the same amount.
Yeah.
And we had a very long distance before. Now it's closer. I would want more.
Yes.
So that's the impact of minimum wage rate, and that ends the chapter, I guess. Right? Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hanging.
So